see you. I thought you forgot where I worked for a minute.
Right, no, I just, it's these people with long titles, I had to figure out what you're...
Well, I'm glad that you pointed out at the end that you're still a banker at
Yes.
the end of the day. That's
right. I mean, come on. So we're here last year, and last year I thought I was done. I offered you a bowl
I
of
hoped you were
cookies.
done. I said I don't like sugar, and we said we'll talk about it.
I didn't want to talk about cookies anymore, but then you just keep making, or your company, not you, keeps making announcements about cookies, like major policy announcements, not doing a consumer prompt. How should the ecosystem think about that? We suggested it doesn't matter, let's move on.
Well, I think most of the ecosystem has already moved on. Like, cookies, I've put a son through college and grad school since the first cookie announcement. Like, that gives you some sense of, he's actually starting his real job in 2 weeks. And, I think the thing that I always wanted the marketplace to do, and I wanted my teams to do, was make cookies irrelevant before they go away and embrace new technology. And I think what you were talking about in the last area is what people are doing. People care a lot more about AI. That does a lot better job of finding the right audiences, of optimizing your media. That's what traditionally people use cookies for. People are really embracing first-party data really well. You've got Dave Penske on next. He's got a brilliant strategy for that for Publicis.
Indeed.
And cookies are a piece of the puzzle. They're not the puzzle, right? So I think of that. I think you just use what's available to you.
Can we get a round of applause for that? Goodbye, cookies. I don't want to. Can we? Also, let's not talk about cookies ever again.
Well, that's up to you. You keep asking.
Okay, I know, but you keep making changes. So, yeah, good. I agree. I think the ecosystem has kind of moved on, has developed alternative, and so it's irrelevant. So I have to ask you this question, the question that you can't answer. But I mean, you're as we mentioned in the State of Digital, Google is currently being pursued by the DOJ. They've now racked up 3 wins, right, in Play, Search, and Ad Tech. Obviously, we're not going to comment on the case because there's appeals and it's an ongoing litigation. But what does it feel like internally at Google to be because I guarantee you everyone in the corridors of these companies are talking about these cases. What does it feel like?
Well, they always ask me. It's not just you on stages. Okay. People love to ask me. I was at the Knicks game with some customers last night. They asked this question too. Like, I think it's an important question. I'm a Celtics fan, so I'm very, very sad.
Wow.
Sadder for Jason Tatum than I am the Celtics.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I know you're not. I obviously can't comment on open cases. That would be inappropriate. They're live legal cases. The only thing I say about those is we take them seriously. We show up. We participate in the remedies discussions, and we abide by whatever they ask us to do afterwards. That's all you can do as a company. Internally, it's an interesting place because there's this tension of excitement, and then you have to deal with the news cycle, right? Because we're equally as excited and motivated and focused on the power of what AI is doing to transform the company. There's some really big innovations we haven't seen in 5, 10, 15 years at Google, and that is where we spend most of our time talking to the company about. And then we help them understand that there's always noise around you, and you kind of have to live with the noise.
Right.
I think for me, it's a good lesson in leadership, and maybe for anyone in leadership in the room, is there's always something floating around that is built to distract you. And you have to go back to your core basics. Like, my job and my team's job is to focus on innovation, talk to customers and partners, and help them grow. Right? And until someone tells me I have to change, I do exactly what I've been doing for the last 20 years at Google, which is help partners grow and take advantage of the amazing things that we have and keep people focused there, because that's our impact.
Okay, well, that wasn't a total non-answer, so thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We talked a lot about AI in the State of Digital, and Google has a lot of AI products. How do you prioritize what products that can make the most impact to your customers in terms of bringing to market?
Yeah, well, we've been an AI-first company for 10 years, right? So I always like to remind marketers in particular that if they're using Google tools, they're using AI, right? They can go back and healthily report to their CEO or their CFO that they're using the most advanced AI tools. So we have two paths. Like, on the ads path, we certainly prioritize the media space. Like, we want things to be as automated and optimized as possible. And all the releases that you've seen from a search perspective to a YouTube perspective are all designed to put AI as a jetpack in those tools to help marketers get better outcomes, right? And that is our primary use case. We think we are best at media. That's what our platforms do, and we make sure that is the most optimal thing that's out there. Then we're also participating in some of the workflow activities, like we do prioritize the creative work. I think creative is really important for the marketplace, so sometimes that's just getting insights. You can learn a lot by running models against creative to find out what works best.
Yep.
Find the ad that had the best result, that you're most proud of, make more. Right? You can really reduce the cycle of a creative workflow if you do something like that. But then asset generation matters. If you want to make AI pay off, you probably need a lot more pieces of creative in a lot more different sizes with a lot more specific messages. We prioritize that systems integration. And then we're moving our way into measurement, making sure we can predict the full outcome, not just what's happening with a, like a last click type of thing.
Right.
So we put that all into the ad system. That's the most important thing. And then, of course, the cloud business is powering the ecosystem. Like everyone in here can use a cloud partner or an AI model partner and build really amazing tools. Like we have a pretty steep third-party ecosystem that's building amazing tools for marketers that are AI-powered off of Gemini and off of cloud. And we love to systems integrate with those things because we think it just makes marketers better.
And I guess on the search side, you have to sort of self-cannibalize, right? Because you've got an incumbent business model that's under threat. But you've got to develop the new way forward.
Well, this is where it pays to be a historian, which I know you are. I've been buying media for a long time digitally. So I started, if you remember, in '97. I bought search banners on Alta Vista. Right? So you'd search a keyword, it'd be this plus this, and I'd put a banner on. Right? And then Google came, and I wasn't sure Google would survive because I didn't understand the blue links at the time. I do now. I was wrong. I thought they wouldn't be as good. And then you saw mobile, right? Search has always changed. And search in the future is about a lot more multimodality, a lot more question and answers. And everything that we're putting into the system is designed to help the consumer behavior evolve. Like when we do AI mode or IO overviews, that's about question and answer style. Like people are innately curious. Like there's no bounds to human curiosity. 15% of the search queries that we get every day, we've never seen, right? And they're becoming more complex and more detailed. So when people go into like an AI mode that looks a lot more like a chatbot, that's a really deep question and answer session that you return information, and then you direct them to places that they can go convert or they can go get that extra information. That's a really important evolution of search. It's not a replacement, it's an evolution, right? And it's built into our engine. Then you're dealing with all the multimodal stuff. Like you think about what's happening with Lens. Like people love to take pictures of things, and now they take pictures of things, and that's their search, right? And then they can put the context string on top of that.
So it's an evolution, but there's no business model there yet to capture that new use.
That always takes care of itself. Like there's always a business model to be had. Like when we're doing the AI mode, we're doing all the testing behind the scenes about how do you run an ad placement. I think honestly, the biggest challenge, because you always like straight talk, is how do you find the most qualified consumer, which is probably less clicks, but highly convertible, right? That's the open question that we have to solve for customers. But we're playing with like how do you put an ad in or around, how do you build links into the content, but that's like a research process. That we're actively engaged in, and as we see things, we push them out.
So one of your major AI initiatives that probably gets the most ink is Performance Max, and some of the criticisms of it is in an AI, in an outcomes era, I should say, it logically makes sense, or the intersection of AI and outcomes. But the transparency side of it, that's where there's some pushback on whether marketers really ought to see what's happening in the black box before they just get the result.
Well, it's good pushback, and there's a tension that exists in this world. It's the tension of control of inputs and having really great outcomes. Right? Most marketers that I talk to want great outcomes. They would like insights into what drives them. And I think that's the difference maker that's actually there. Because sometimes transparency could get this defined incorrectly in this moment. Like, you don't have to control every channel line. Like, we give you full control if you use search in our tools. You can do whatever you want, however you want. You control every single point. It's less about augmentation, and it's more about having like a more efficient automation area. But PMax is more about tell you what happened, what's working so you can make future decisions. And it just so happens we do sometimes listen to customers. We love listening and taking feedback, and we've released a lot more transparency features for PMax in just the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about them more next week at GML. And they're the things that customers ask for. They ask for channel-level transparency about what's driving performance and what's not. So they want to see the impact of search next to Gmail, next to YouTube, next to the display network. That's important information so they can see what has impact and they can get some insights out of it. We're giving them full search term visibility, right? So you can start to see the types of search terms that people are searching for, which give you a sense of what your consumer is thinking about. Yep. Also gives you a sense for how you can negative target some of the keywords that are less effective. That's important. And then, which I think is the most important thing, is like some asset level insights. What types of creatives are working? What types of messaging is working? What kinds of channels are working? Because that helps you build a plan and a strategy long term that helps you build better creative, have a better audience transparency about what you're looking for, and that gets fed into the machine, right? So it's less about automation versus control. It's more about give me information that makes me smarter, that I can make good decisions on, that I can give you the best assets possible to drive the best outcome, because that's ultimately what they want. They want great outcomes, but they want to be able to take part in that conversation.
Transparency coming to PMax. You heard it here first. At the end of the day today, I've got Jeff Green up here. I'm going to ask him about his perspective, and I'll ask you for a 30-second answer on the health of the open web. We have a breakout session on it today. Where do we stand this year versus last year? There was, shenanigans. We got fraud. You got all kinds of things going on. You got news under the gun. What is your assessment of the state of the open internet?
Well, there's never been more consumer traffic on the internet than there is today. So I think it's a pretty healthy ecosystem. I think people have legitimate questions around like the future of search and what their traffic patterns look like, and that's something that we take really seriously and are working with publishers and marketers alike on. But I think you kind of went through the social activity stuff. Like I think you have to understand how consumers spend their time, and that's maybe the most important. Consumers love to spend their time on video platforms. They love to spend their time on social platforms, and they love to spend their time in rich content that gives them information. Right? So if you want to be a healthy in the open web, what kind of rich information are you giving consumers that helps them make decisions and helps influence them? That's ultimately where folks are spending most of their time. And then how do you take advantage of all the key trends? Like I'm very bullish on YouTube's future. I'm very bullish on the whole social creator aspect that you talked about. I think that's just all about what consumers are looking for and who they trust and how they engage. And brands and publishers and all have to figure out how do you take advantage of that type of content.
So your YouTube Brandcast is tomorrow. Looking forward to that. The key talent, the lead talent, is Lady Gaga.
Yeah, she's slightly cooler than you.
Yeah. So to finish, just a last question is a multiple choice. How would you describe Google's relationship with its customers? Born This Way, Poker Face, or Bad Romance?
It's definitely born this way, for sure. Like, because the thing we love having Lady Gaga. She's born of the platform. Like, she was the first person that had true fandom, so it's really fun to have her there because all her little monsters that used to post things and to get ready with me for YouTube, that is emblematic of what YouTube is. And Born This Way is really important because what I love about YouTube and what we're going to celebrate tomorrow is billions of people come to YouTube every day because they find the varied voices they love and they find the communities that they love. And that's really important. I was watching your Unilever case study up there and what he was saying about social marketing first. And what really a marketer means and what YouTube gives people is the creators are the most trusted. Like 98% of people trust YouTube creators more than anyone else.
Authenticity.
98% of people can't agree on anything. So it's authentic. So if you're Unilever, how do I put my brand next to an authentic community that says the message that I want? The great example, and then I'll let you go, is Michelle Khare. She's got 5 million followers on YouTube. She is like a 25-year-old powerhouse. She has got a black belt in 90 days. She's done Houdini's water trick. She's boxed. She's done the Navy SEAL training. She is the definition of young women empowerment that can do anything. Who wants to be associated to that?
Everyone.
Dove.
Right.
Why? Because their marketing campaign was empowering young women to excel in sports in things that they didn't think were possible. So when they put their brand next to Michelle Khare and she integrates Unilever into her videos, she integrates it into her advertising, and then you read the comments And the comments are a mix of, thank you, Michelle. I couldn't convince my daughter that she could do these things. You changed her life. Thank you, Michelle. I didn't know if I could do this type of work, but you show me that if you can be a Navy SEAL, I can start to do these things differently as well. And then Dove gets all that brand affiliation and lift because they're next to a community that's so deeply passionate about something, and she's got a creator that resonates, and it's authentic, and it works. And that's why you see marketers doing that work.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sean Downey, Born This Way.